In North Africa, we have a mega extinction, but that's because
Okay,
of
we
the
do.
desert after the African
Oh,
Humid
so that's the
Period.
desert. So this is a climate change
It's a
driven
climate
megafauna
change.
extinction.
That there's no giraffes today in Morocco. There's no hippos today in Morocco. They disappear with the climate change, right? So that happens when it gets dry 5,000, 4,000 years ago. And then they disappear. But that's
Mhm.
not because of human activity. That's climate change, as far as we can say. Because the habitat isn't there, right? There's no lakes where the hippos could be in the desert today.
Okay, because I was wondering, maybe if there's a link between the extinction of the megafauna and the growth of pastoralism. Like they kind of took the auroch and they were like, "Don't we're gonna like bring this into our sphere of influence because we don't want to see it just killed. We learned how to breed them." I talked to a couple people, some mammoth experts and other paleontologists, and I'm starting to realize that a few megafauna saved themselves from extinction just by becoming domesticated. Like the one example I think of is the mammoth is the range of the mammoth is all through the New World, all through Siberia, all through Western Europe. It shrunk down to the modern range of the elephant. If you look at the modern range of the elephant 200, 300 years ago, that's essentially the world where that's where the mammoths, they were killed down to that point. And then a lot of the cultures in the middle and early Holocene started using elephants for warfare, especially like in India and Southeast Asia. So they actually started to utilize this big megafauna. And I wonder, just a guess, I wonder
But
if
then
like, hey, they saved
you can
themselves.
say that, but an elephant and a mammoth is as close as a gorilla and a human.
Really?
They're 6 million
Genetically?
years
Okay.
diverged from each other. It's a very different animal, right?
That's a very okay, because my feeling was that they were pretty closely genetically related to the modern elephant. No?
No, no, not
Okay.
at all. They're
No.
further distant than a tiger and a lion. A tiger and a lion are closer
Really?
related to each other than a mammoth and a elephant.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. And the other example would be the auroch. The auroch goes extinct, but essentially doesn't go extinct because its domestic ancestor is the cow, right?
I
And
mean,
so,
partially it mixes into the cows because there is just 1 billion
right,
cattle on the planet today. I mean, not so much in the
right,
past, but then, wild animals disappear because they mix into kind of domestic animals as part of the story. The last aurochs goes
right.
extinct in the 18th century. It's actually quite late. Was around in Europe a couple of hundred years ago. So it's not like a very deep extinction, but then they're hunted down because of overpopulation and partially mixing into the European cattle, but not to a large extent. But there are also a lot of cattle. But the cattle is really the cattle comes from the Near East and has been domesticated there 10,000 years ago. There's a little bit of mixture of aurochs
Mm,
into it, but not a lot. So it is basically cattle from the Near East. It's not the European aurochs that mixes in there, as far as we can say. And then, of course, there are other bovines in kind of the
right.
zebu, for example, that is from the South Asia, and the water buffalo and the yak. And there's a whole bunch of bovines. Yak is still existing as a wild form, but the Taurus cattle is not. So that aurochs is extinct.